He was a towering figure until a knee injury cut his career short. Who knows what Melbourne might have been able to do with him in the #1 ruck berth. He will be riding every bump with his D's this weekend. Please make him welcome Mr. Steve O'Dwyer. Thanks for coming on. Just ready to go, mate. You look magnificent.
Been trying to keep trim.
Oh, you're doing a very, very good job.
Can we go straight to... Can we call you Straubs for the rest? Absolutely. Is that all right? Because we've known him from Straubs from afar.
Well, forever.
Forever.
Let's have a look. There'll be some kids out there who don't remember the career. And at your peak, you were absolutely... You're one of the really sort of instrumental and dominant ruckmen in the competition. But that double act that you had with Jimmy Steins, who was a young ruckman coming in, what sort of role did you play mentoring Jimmy through the early days of his career?
Jimmy and I played together from 19s onwards.
Yep.
And basically we competed against each other for that #1 spot. So having each other to basically play against and train with and compete the whole time.
You taught him everything he knew. Right. Is what you're trying to say, Straubs, is it not? Take us through. I wanted to go back to your very first game. How did that go for you?
It was a great game.
What happened?
Got suspended in my first game.
That is a round of applause. Hang on. That's an elite group of players who could... I'd like to see them go around in an open car on grand final day. Players who were suspended in their first match.
They always talk about players who kick a goal with their first kick, but this is much better.
What did you do?
I think we need to dwell on that.
I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, you were good. And then you came back, and of course you would have learnt your lesson, wouldn't you? And you wouldn't have got suspended again until...
my second game.
Straubs, it's a pattern of behaviour that would dog you throughout your career. Right up to the point where you missed a grand final because you were heartbreakingly suspended in a prelim final in 1998. Do you remember the incident? Pardon me. Do you remember the incident?
I do.
And how do you feel about it?
I thought it was hard done by.
Hard done by? Let's take a look at the footage. Here we go. Straubs coming in from the rear and... Yeah! I mean, it's iffy, isn't it? And, of course, everyone reacted accordingly. And that is the moment you realised... Did you think the writing was on the wall? Were you thinking at that moment about the following week?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And do you still think about letting yourself down and your team down? In that heartbreaking
loss? I think about
it
every year because the statistic of who got suspended in a prelim comes up every year.
Did you think you were stiff? I mean, you obviously threw the round up at Darui, but...
I did. He fell backwards and he was falling down. I collected him a little bit high. I think there was more contact in the aftermath. than there was in the actual incident.
So when you went to the tribunal, were you thinking that, if your defence presents a pretty good case here, you might be able to get off? Did you give yourself a chance?
I was hoping so, yeah.
How many weeks did you get?
2.
Right. Oh. You won the BNF in '88, so that's how important a player you were to Melbourne.
Huge.
How hard was it for you the next week? I mean, you must have been absolutely devastated to see him run out in the grand final. I mean, they didn't forget you, obviously. They wanted to make sure everyone knew that
That's
you
a police artist's impression.
the day. How hard was it for you to sit back and watch this, Steve?
Oh, extremely difficult. The whole week was difficult because I had to train the whole week with the team and be a part of it and supporting the team. But then that game, nothing went right for him the whole day. It was...
It was a tough...
Were you comforted by the fact they lost by 88 points and you wouldn't have made a difference?
That's the thing, I would have made a difference.
Well, you did over a long period of time. You're a much-loved player. I know a lot of the past players at Melbourne, and they just can't speak highly enough. What do you think of the current mob? I mean...
It reminds me a lot of the group that we had at the time. So very tight-knit, great bunch of guys.
Yeah.
We have a bit of contact with them through the past players and the current players. So, I think it's a real good group.
Nathan Jones isn't in again this week. He's given his heart and soul. He's given his adult life to the Melbourne Footy Club. Does your heart break a bit for him?
Yeah, absolutely. He's contributed to that their success for quite a while and been a fantastic player. And
great servant of the Melbourne Football Club. And will be? They can't consider a medical sub or anything. I mean, it'd be great.
And he sneak onto the ground.
It'd be a romantic story. It'd be a great story if they could. But he'll be watching on this week, and chances are, if they don't have a run of injuries this week, he'll probably be coming home to be by his partner's side for the birth of their children. So
it'd be very hard.
Yeah. Straubs, you know what would cheer him up? A round of "Come On Demons."
Oh, no doubt.
Which you were in, and this is some of the most iconic footage involving the Melbourne Footy Club. Let's visit it one more time.
I've got this feeling, I know it's real, and we're gonna make history. Come on, demons, you got me screaming, got me standing on my seat.
Magnificent stuff.
Oh, mate.
Yep. Can we just back it up a bit? Can we have a look at you with your young son? Tell us about that. That must have been a great moment for you.
It's some random redhead that...
Hang on. What are you saying?
That's not your kid.
It's not your kid.
Not my kid.
Get us a little redhead. A little redhead for Straubs. Is that what they've done? Photo shoot.
Did you enjoy taking the game to the world? I mean, you're obviously promoting the game there for Melbourne and promoting Melbourne, but then when Melbourne was asked to, take the game around the world, you went to, I think it was Toronto in 1989, and you may not have got some silverware in 88, but you certainly did with the International Cup over here against Geelong. Was this sort of experience for you?
No, it was great.
Yeah.
Good to be an ambassador for the sport and the sponsor.
Yeah, cool.
Amazing fans.
Look at that.
Amazing fans you wanted in front of too, by the way, Straubs. There's you and Jimmy, and have a look at that. It's every young kid's dream to win a meaningless game in Toronto in front of Mr. T. But people will forget how long were we overseas for.
We went for a few weeks.
Amazing, those exhibitions. Crazy.
What an era.
What an era.
The game was awash with cash.
Now, listen, we love that game. That game's always special to us. And regular viewers will recognise your acceptance speech.
Oh, which
Mickey, well, it was gracious. It was
statesmanlike.
Statesmanlike. It was Churchillian. It was, but it was very encouraging.
Martin Luther King.
It was MLK. It was encouraging. It was well received, especially by the interviewer Mike Williamson at the end.
The crowd, you've been great. All the single girls, get back to the Royal York. We can all have a chat. And the boys played fantastic. I'll take them all. So everyone get back there. Thanks very much.
Well on this, Straub. Well spoken.
Magnificent.
Now, you remember that?
I do. I get reminded of it often too.
Whenever we played on this show?
Yeah.
Well, what were you thinking?
I'd been worded up before I got up on stage, so I was just trying to look after my teammates.
Oh, rightio.
Do the right thing.
Okay.
Yeah, team player.
Yeah, you are.
Love it.
And, well, the art of seduction is subtle and sophisticated. Who are we to judge, by the way, how you're going to do it? You did have to, I don't know, it feels like someone got to you.
You reckon so?
And you did clarify your remarks, but Mike Williamson was having none of it.
A tough game?
Yeah, it was pretty physical. A few bumps and bruises, but we'll get over that because we won't. I just also like to say the girls are for the young blokes, not me, because I've got the girlfriend over there in the stand.
Well, you may have convinced your girlfriend, Straub, but you didn't convince me.
He wasn't letting you off the hook.
So you were looking after the younger players?
I was.
Okay. How old were you at the time?
21.
Straubs, how hard is it? We've got to go. How hard is it to be getting the D's possibly into a grand final, but definitely a preliminary final, and not being able to see it at the G and not being able to go to the ground? It's a tough one, isn't it?
No, it's absolutely terrible for all the supporters. But as Sam was saying, with such a well-presented speech, I was thinking there might be some media, offers to get me a work permit over there.
An exemption to get over there.
You may be safer at home in lockdown. Hey, we have to let you go. Thank you for coming, and best of luck to the D's. I think anyone who does have a team...
absolutely.
I hope they get across the line. Before we let you go, the other guest on our show today is Barry Stoneham, and I need
Played in that game in Toronto.
He did as well. Well, he played in this game. Can I ask how you guys were getting on in our green room, given this was the last encounter the two of you had together? Is this a redhead thing, or what's going on here?
You're fighting over that kid.
Do you remember what that was
Who's
about?
upset who then?
Not really.
It's a Panasonic Cup Grand Final. It wasn't even for premiership points, and you're whacking on.
Every cup was important.
No, that's a very good point. Hey, are you confident about the D's tomorrow? Can they get through?
I'm quietly confident. I think we're in a good position. Can't let them get a jump on us like they did in the last game.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, mate, thanks for coming on the show, and you made a significant contribution to your footy club, and we appreciate you being part of preliminary final week with us. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks,
Steve O'Dwyer, our very special guest, all the very best for the D's.
What was going on here between our two guests this evening?
Yeah, it must be a red-headed thing. I think you're right. We just said before. It's Steve and I had a few altercations over the years.
Right.
I must admit, I'm a bit embarrassed with this next bit of vision where the attempted punch is not really a punch at all. It's like a cat slap.
It's a bit over the top.
A bit embarrassing that way.
Yeah,
but we both were pretty fierce competitors in those days, and he was a tough player.
He was a tough player.
Yeah.